This talk needs to come with a huge caveat. We all go through tough times where we need the support of others. Times when we are so low, we need to rely on the support of friends and family. Times when we need to be listened to in love and friendship. However, some people always require far more attention from you than they ever give you in return. If you know someone who always takes from your relationship and never gives anything back, then you are most likely relating to a sponge. We all feel compassion for people going through a hard time. There are family and friends we all love, and we will always be there for them. However, we've probably all been in the place where we've had to sit through endless conversations, patiently listening to a sponge's struggles. And whilst we want to offer that support, we need to manage that relationship so that they learn to help themselves and so that we don't feel drained. We need to show them genuine friendship and true compassion without being overwhelmed by their needs. Sponges are often fearful of missing out, and most have a severe case of FOMO. They don't want to miss out, and they are counting on you to be sure that they don't. They are consumed by their own needs and can't look beyond them. They are more concerned with how they are feeling and how they are doing than they are with anything else. So sponges, whilst not necessarily selfish, are certainly egocentric. In healthy relationships, closeness ebbs and flows. The relationship has a kind of centre point where people are connected, but they move closer and further away from this point over time. Most people understand this and learn to tolerate the periods of greater distance without panicking, but not sponges. They panic when they sense distance, so they smother and hover in a typically vain attempt to stay close. So how can we understand sponges better? So try finishing this sentence. If at first you don't succeed, what's your response? My hunch is that you said something like, try again. Not so for sponges. They are more likely to come up with something like, oh, I'm utterly useless. Sponges suffer from terribly low self-esteem and agonise over their failure, and as a result are far less willing to take risks and far more apt to rely on others. Jesus told a parable about a sponge, a person with self-esteem so low that he buried his talents in the ground. This is the crux of the matter for sponges. They don't possess enough self-worth to stand on their own 2 feet, so they try to stand on yours. In this sense, sponges are desperately trying to merge with another person in a vain attempt to feel better about themselves. Sponges are needy because their neediness serves as a bridge to other people. It's almost their way of getting closer to other people. But it is a little deceptive because their neediness is not so much about getting their overt needs met as it is about something deeper. Sponges, more than most other high-maintenance relationships, are crying out, strangely enough, to be needed. So how do we cope with sponges? Of course, saying no is important to coping with sponges, but there are plenty of other proven strategies for not allowing sponges to soak up your energy and your time. For example, the first one, facing the sponge within. Now, I'm not suggesting that you would dump your personal problems on other people without giving them the emotional support that they need to, but I'm suggesting that at times you also feel a need to have someone to take care for you. It may not be strong, it may only be fleeting, but it is a need just the same. So if you can own up to a part of the sponge in you, then you'll be more likely to give more grace to the sponges around you. Secondly, examine your desire to help. So my good friend Carol said to me the other day, I always play therapist to my friends and get nothing in return. And I responded by telling her that she never seems to want anything in return. At that moment, Carol realised that she had set a precedent for always listening and never being listened to because it played into her compulsive need to help. So Carol had fallen into that trap set by the lie, everyone else's needs are more important than mine. And the truth is that your needs are critically important. If you don't identify your own needs, you will have trouble accurately meeting the needs of others. The third way is turning sympathy into empathy. Empathy is that artful ability to put ourselves in another's skin with both our heart and our head. Of course, that's the trick, both heart and head. Too often we confuse empathy with feeling another's pain in our heart, but that's only sympathy. And while sympathy is a noble expression, it's only half of what it takes to have empathy. Empathy adds to sympathy an objective sense of analysing people's problems before getting worked up over them. And that's one of the keys to coping with sponges, to analyse as well as sympathise. So take time to be objective about sponges' circumstances before you jump heart first into helping them. And if you do, you will turn sympathy into empathy and help yourself as well as the sponges in the process. The fourth way is building good boundaries. The best way to understand where you need to set boundaries is to think about the people who you have worked hardest to help. Note what kinds of behaviour triggered your urge to make them happy, and consider ways of keeping your urge to please under control. Then set up your expectations, make them known, and stick to it. If you're willing to loan your car to a sponge, for example, decide how often and how many times, and say something like, "This is what I can do for you, but no more." And number 5, finally try confronting the sponges about how they are making you feel. Think of confrontation as holding up a mirror to help sponges see what they are doing and how it is affecting you. It is possible that they have no idea that they're dumping on you, or that you feel that they never listen. Salvage what you can from this high maintenance relationship by gently communicating what you see taking place. It may be the most loving thing you can do for the sponges in your life. And as Paul says in his letter to the Ephesians, speak the truth in love. We can't cover every one of the impossible people types on this course, but do take a moment to look at the videos on dealing with the critic, the steamroller, and the wet blanket on the website.